Thomas.
Oh,
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, wonderful. It's thank you very much for coming on to Canadians with Disabilities and their Allies this morning.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
So anyone who's listening to the podcast after the segment or joining the group this morning, I'd like to formally introduce Thomas Yanuziello. Did I pronounce your name right?
Not even close.
No? Okay.
Yanuziello.
It's quite a unique name, very nice to meet you. And so I've got Thomas, MPP candidate for Etobicoke for Lakeshore from the Green Party. Etobicoke. Well, very nice to meet you, Thomas, and thank you so much for taking the time of coming on for the show and talking about so many interesting things going forward with campaign that you're launching, and I'm really excited to see that you're running for the party, and you need great representatives in the community for sure, and to represent the needs of so many things that need to change, right, in a positive way, and as an ally for Canadians with disabilities, of course.
Absolutely. Our current representatives are completely AWOL, and it's unacceptable. We definitely need representatives who are willing to stand up for our society's most vulnerable.
Yes, and so many pressing issues for sure, regarding so much income inequality and accessibility for sure. The rates have been suppressed for so long, right? Especially in Ontario. Geez, last time I looked on the data, I was able to collect. It was like 4 years since the last time they had an increase, and inflation has gone skyrocketing through the roof, and nobody can get by on $11.69 per month, right? I mean, every province in general is definitely way below the poverty level, but Ontario, it's very disappointing to see the gap that people have to live on. I mean, their full support payment, including their shelter, you can't rent anywhere for that price, even for a whole check, let alone $11.69. Of course, then there's a Canada Disability benefit, but that's quite a ways down the road. They haven't even passed the bill yet. I was looking at the Green platform, and they want to double the OSB rates. Immediately, right? So.
Yeah, the amount that they're receiving it doesn't even compare to even that of a minimum wage worker. Minimum wage workers are also below the poverty line by quite a bit. It's impossible to find even just a place to rent here in Etobicoke, let alone also have to pay your food and your bills, and I'm assuming that there must be added expenses when you factor in living with a disability.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's always extra added expenses that are on top of their rates. I mean, that people with disabilities that they endure every month that are not included. That people have to pay for their medications, for instance. There's adaptive equipment that they need. I mean, the list goes on, and every person's experience and what they go through on a day-to-day basis is different than any other people that what their needs are. But I mean, in general terms, for sure, there are the expenses, and those do not, in some cases, they actually go over the amount that people actually need in a whole month. I mean, especially like if they're in a motorized scooter. I mean, if a part breaks, wow, that's pretty expensive too. And so, I think there's definitely the rates have to be up above the poverty line. I know that, there are some advocates who are calling for right at the poverty line, this and that, but in reality, like, the rates shouldn't even be like so low that even below the poverty line or right at. Be enough to basically pay for all your goods and services for sure. Nobody should have to choose between paying their bills or paying their rent or buying food or all the above, right? There should always be enough to cover everything, especially when we live in such a wealthy country. There's definitely no need for not taxing the ultra rich, right? And because that's ultimately what pays for the services.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up how wealthy Canada is. I think it's pretty common in our society, and it's included myself up until recently, for us to go through our daily lives with the the full knowledge that we live in one of the wealthiest countries in the world and just assume that our government is doing its due diligence and supporting those that need it. But I was extremely shocked to find out that they're in such crippling poverty and deterred from working due to these clawbacks and are just in so much despair that they're actually applying for medical assistance and dying to get out of their situation. It's deplorable.
Yeah, when people have a terminal illness or they're in a state of suffering due to, when it's nothing to do with an income security, or their health is depleted down, well, because of income security, if it's related to that, if that's, the health cause because of malnutrition due to that, then yeah, I mean, that MAID was pushed through, just to say, well, yeah, you're suffering because, well, the government's not going to give you enough support to better your health and to your well-being in general. It's a cop-out, right? And it should never have been passed that way, because they have a legal responsibility under the Charter of Rights for the Canadians with rights of persons with disabilities in Canada. And I think the UN even is really disappointed with the federal government on that, of enacting that part of the bill. I know I'm not an expert when it comes to it, but I know there's pushback on it, and I think they're looking at ways of trying to amend that part of the policy. I really hope that they do amend it, and rightfully so. I mean, and there's a couple angles on that where, yeah, if a person is suffering, due to let's say an illness, like I was saying before. I had a family member who was suffering with illness and didn't go the pathway on that. But if she was to have done that, then yes, that definitely for sure. But if it was because the government doesn't supply enough income security for people and it depleted their health down that way, then yeah, that's not right.
And going back to the clawbacks, deterring people with disabilities from pursuing work to improve their situation, I think that our current working environment reality today, post-COVID, sorry to say post-COVID, we're still in COVID, but the reality that there's a lot of work from home jobs now that are available to people with disabilities to be included and give their lives more meaning and the ability to support themselves, yet the current system doesn't allow them to earn a living wage and support themselves because of the clawbacks.
Yeah, in Ontario, they're allowed to make to only $200, and everything after $200 is clawed back. So there's just no incentive above that amount for people to make more and being self-sufficient, if they're able to do so. And I think that they need to modernize that so that people who are able to work, then they would have enough means, maybe to try to better themselves, if they're able to. I know that there definitely are many who can't, and they shouldn't be punished by the system of not having enough money to basically buy all the goods and services. Now, the ones who can work, I mean, that's is perfect. That's great, right? And there are many who want to work, but they know that, like I was saying, it's like they're only allowed to make $200. And being clawed back and punished for that, I mean, it should be no less than like $1,000 a month. I know some provinces, they have that mechanism in place, but I'd say even more. I mean, if they can make even more than $1,000, it shouldn't. I mean, there should be never clawbacks at all. I guess I should kind of reiterate that. Is that anyone who can work, they should be unlimited, right? And their benefits should always still be there, regardless. If for some reason that they can't work and they lose that income, their employment income, well, then they have to now say to the caseworker, they'll say, well, why did you lose your income? What, you don't want to work? And then they have to start explaining themselves to a worker, and that's wrong too, right? The system is completely broken, and they need to basically fix that, because clawback shouldn't even be happening. I know that some people pay in the CPP, when they're working, right? It's taken off, and yeah, there's different things that are definitely clawed away. And in today's society, I mean, people shouldn't have to really start choosing of, well, can I afford to buy work supplies, and because all that comes out of it too, right? So now you're actually making even less than that $200 really at the end of the day.
Right. Sorry about the noise.
It's okay.
We already have a system of clawbacks in our society. It's called income tax. If we just replace this program, get rid of all the hoops, consider the money that we're giving to people with disabilities as a basic income, then they are, they're getting the money that they need just as much as everybody else, and they're registered as a taxpayer. They are also contributing to society.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad that you brought that topic up, about basic income, because basic income is so important. Like when I mentioned about people can make say unlimited amount, like, and they still have their medical services provided, and that because like basic income would be the best way forward, and I believe that's the best for Canadians in general and people with disabilities, definitely, because then they basically will just get their a big lump sum, and they can buy all the goods and services that they need. They pay their rent, the medical definitely would be covered too. I don't know if that would still be covered under the provincial guidelines, but probably under a certain tax threshold, like a certain like lower income. Definitely would probably fall under that, I'm sure, under the provincial designation, because like the taxes, they charge the tax to the ultra rich, right? At a certain threshold, you say 33% at the very highest of somebody making over $220,000 or even higher. I mean, they're not even going to feel even like a small little bit of tax on that, because in some cases, like, some of them don't even pay tax, which is wrong. Like big corporations, that I mean, even a small portion of tax, I mean, it basically pays for all the service right there, and even at the lower end of the basic income, it would be basically the individuals on a lower scale or to medium income earners, they're still going to be paying that tax. Like, there'll be a certain tax threshold, and yeah, I'm actually on board with that conversation, for sure, because I think that's what's needed going forward. I know that there's a lot of push in the Senate right now for GLBI. Senator Kim Pate is pushing the bill through the Senate right now, and MP Lee Gazan is pushing this. Well, it's identical terminology. It's just different bill numbers, but they're trying to push that through the House of Commons. Senator Kim Pate's putting it through the Senate. So I think that's a better way of the Canada Disability Benefit, because there's just so much uncertainty. I mean, not saying that I don't think that the Canada Disability Benefit shouldn't be there. I just think that there could be a lot of people left behind, and right now they haven't even passed the bill anyway. And I kind of cringe, because I think that what's going to happen with that part, they're going to end up just putting it through, presenting the bill a day or two right before the House rises, for the summer session, and that'll be it until the fall.
Yeah, and I think that people with disabilities have been waiting long enough. We shouldn't delay any longer to get them the support that they need. So the Green Party is committed to doubling ODSP rates immediately as soon as we can get in, to try and fill in the cracks in the system and stop people falling through. I'd also like to point out that the NDP's commitment to double ODSP rates wouldn't take effect until their second year in term. So they're kind of just asking people with disabilities to hang in there, and I think that's really unfair.